Shepherd's Advantage Leadership Podcast, Episode 005. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shepherd's Advantage Leadership Podcast. This podcast ministry was born out of a committee assignment that started many years ago under the direction of Reverend Charles Crank. Boy, the principles that I learned, the insights that I gained from that ministry, that opportunity to build ministry for connecting minister to minister, peer to peer. That was a great experience in the day, and there were many things that I learned. It certainly took me down a pathway of life to a continued educational journey that I did not know I was going to take, to a dissertation I didn't know I was going to write, and to Shepherd's Advantage I didn't know was going to exist. And so with that in mind, I bring 25+ years of leadership to this podcast series, and my desire is that we would build in you positive principles, positive insights that becomes a value to you and to your leadership development. This podcast ministry is to provoke and stir the imagination of greater leadership capabilities. We're trying to offer insights that are academic into the nonprofit world of leadership. Not only are we trying to offer the academic, but we're also trying to bring to the table discussion of trends and new ideas that are emerging that are worth the conversation. And so we want to build that into this ministry. Shepherd's Advantage offers a premier program. In fact, this is the flagship program for Shepherd's Advantage, and that is executive coaching. Executive coaching, there's a lot of misgivings that are out there with regard to coaching. A lot of people feel that a coach is someone that tells you how to do something, or they say, in the day, this is how I done it, and you need to do it just like me and get the results that I got. Well, we all know that strategy and those ideas and concepts really don't work. However, this executive coaching flagship program for Shepherd's Advantage is a program that is highly customizable to fit you. And so it can be as short as we need it to be. And then I rarely would go over a 6-month period of time in working with someone. I believe that the real challenge of an effective coach is someone that will come alongside you to help you reach within yourself and pull out the answers that are already there. You have the answers already in you, and a good coach will help you in that journey of discovery and help you to see deep within yourself ideas and strategies that you'll come to appreciate and come to own, and it will shape and redefine your ministry and your life passion. So if you'd like to know more about this program, why don't you private message us on our Facebook page, Shepherd's Advantage Inc., Facebook, and just send me a private message there, and I'll be glad to respond to that and answer any questions and give you all the details, as well as to ask some questions about where you are and what it is that you're looking for at this point in your life and your passions. So I'd be glad to hear from you on that. We'll be certainly glad to talk to you about that. And in the show notes, we'll have a link to our Facebook page so that you can just click on that and go right to it and won't have to spend a lot of time searching and pondering this, trying to find us. Also, this podcast series, we're in our inaugural presentations. In fact, this is the 5th episode that is being recorded, and we have chosen to begin this podcast journey to build on the foundation of the laws of leadership. And specifically, we have chosen the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And there are several reasons why we have chosen to do this. First of all, I'm a firm believer in foundation building blocks. I believe that if you're going to build anything of lasting worth and value, you certainly need to understand the foundation on which you're building. I believe the Bible has a number of illustrations about that, building upon the solid rock as opposed to building upon the sands. And so it is our desire and passion in this ministry that we begin this journey building upon a good foundation. And so when you do a cursory search and you do a evaluation of the laws or the discussion about laws of leadership, you come to conclude that John Maxwell's list of the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership is actually at the top. It is number one. And number one for good reason. It is the most extensive list of foundational laws that you're going to find anywhere. There are other lists. There are other discussions that are out there. And if you'll go to episode 001, we set the foundation in the introduction about the various laws, and we listed that. In fact, even in the show notes, we linked several articles in there where others have their list and their idea of approaching what is foundation and leadership. Some of it overlaps. Some of it is different, but it enhances the discussion nonetheless. But it certainly was our desire to kind of take that number one and build on it and go with it and allow it to shape this discussion moving forward in this leadership podcast. If you desire to have the book, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and also there is a workbook that is also available. We have affiliate links that are on the show notes that we've made available to you. And yes, it is an affiliate link, and we do receive a little bit back in kind. And all of that just goes right back into the work of Shepherd's Advantage. And we just keep reinvesting and keep rolling everything forward to make resources available and continue to develop new resources. And we've got a lot of things that are in the pipeline. We're working on them, and hopefully in the coming podcast very soon, we're going to be making some announcements to new programs and new ideas, new things. We're considering some leadership roundtables, and in fact, we're wanting to develop a leadership roundtable around the movie on the life of President Lincoln. Boy, you can't look at that movie without realizing the leadership styles and principles that just underlay that entire movie, especially in that time period of history. So there are several of those ideas that we're looking at, and we're working on some video product that will be forthcoming. But anyhow, the affiliate links are there. You can just click on it. You can make that purchase, and it would just be so very much appreciated. And not only will this material and these books be of value in your leadership library, but it will also, in kind, continue to allow us in this work that we call Shepherd's Advantage. So we thank you very much for that. Well, let's begin the discussion today in this broadcast, and we're going to begin with a look at the law of intuition. The law of intuition states that leaders evaluate everything with a leadership bias. Leaders just look at things differently than others do. They evaluate everything according to their leadership bias. They possess leadership intuition that it informs everything that they do. I mean, every decision, every aspect of their life is filtered through this leadership bias. Not all people are intuitive in the area of leadership, but every person, however, does possess intuition. So we all exercise that on some level. I mean, think about it from just a simple parenting standpoint. A child is getting close to something that may harm them, shock them, or it's hot. or stairs or a variety of things. And we have that intuition that we see it. And as they even begin to get close to it, our intuition kicks in and we see what can come in terms of harm if they continue moving in a specific direction. And that's intuition. You see, that's just parental intuition. Leadership intuition sees it from a different vantage point. We see a much, much bigger picture in terms of what we desire to accomplish. It's interesting to note that we are intuitive in the area of our strength. So think about it for just a moment. What are you good at? And what really ignites passion within you? That's where you're good at. We're not all good in the same things at equal amounts and equal capabilities, but we all have strengths that are unique. Now, we may have strengths that are very much in common, and even within that, we can nuance the capability and the development of that. But however, we are intuitive in the area of our strength. It was said one time, General Colin Powell, he was one of the premier military minds and military leaders back in the Bush era of presidency, and worked his way up through the ranks, and he was quite the military leader. In an interview one time, he made the comment that he tends to gather only about 40 to 60% of the information that can be obtained about any given situation or circumstance or something that a decision has to be made. He tends to gather only about that much information, 40 to 60%. In other words, he's not really striving to try to know all that there is to know in order to make a decision. And then when he gets just that amount of information, then he states that his experience kicks in. And that's what makes up the difference between the 40 and 60%, and the difference there to the 100%. It's the intuition. It's his life experience. It's things that he has learned and things that life has taught him, and he looks at that decision through the filter of the law of intuition, that leadership bias. Your ability to see through that lens of leadership is really determined by who you are, and that in turn shapes what you see. So think back over your life for just a moment and consider all of your life's experiences. And then think about the present and decisions that you are in the process of making or that you've already made just recently. And I'm positive you're going to see a connection between who you are, the things that have shaped you, and how that is impacting your decision. Again, your ability to see through that lens of leading is determined by who you are, and that in turn shapes what it is that you're looking at. Well, there are several things here that I want to just highlight and put on offer for us here, if I may. Consider some of this. First of all, leaders are readers of their situation. This is to say that natural ability coupled with learned skill creates an informed intuition that makes leadership issues just jump out at you. I mean, your ability, your capabilities. I mean, think about it. Again, if you've never gone through a process of leadership giftings and assessment of those talents and gifts, I really would encourage you to do so, and to expose yourself to that kind of thinking and that kind of valuable input into your life. Because your natural ability, and then you couple that with learned skills. There are things that you learn over the course of life. There's formal education, there's certification programs, and then just life itself. It teaches us. And the combination of this, we end up with what's called learned skills. I mean, learned intuition here, informed intuition. And then that just simply causes leadership issues just to pop. I mean, it just jumps out at you, it grabs you, and you see it, and you don't even realize that you're doing it. many times. But leaders are readers of their situation. And then consider leaders are readers of trends. Managers are concerned about efficiency and effectiveness. Leaders are looking at the big picture always. I mean, a leader has the possibility and the capability of being able to look years ahead and in some cases even decades ahead because they see the trends. They see where things are headed. They see the possibilities. They understand. I just think about computers and the use of computers. Boy, how that evolution of technology has come upon us. I can still remember the very first computer that I ever bought. It was a Zenith data system, and it had a 30 megabyte hard drive. And I remember the technical person working with me, he said, Mr. Brackett, he said, that 30 meg hard drive, it's going to take you a long, long time to ever fill that hard drive up. That is awesome. That's top of the line. Oh my goodness. I've got documents that are bigger than 30 megabyte now. And now to see it, we're in the terabytes of a possibility of storage, and then speed and conciseness, compactness, and miniaturizations. Wow, man, we have come a long way. And who would have known? I mean, think back on the Steve Jobs of the world. I mean, when he stood in front of that room of technical people and personnel, and he held up that little stick and made the statement, 1,000 songs in my pocket, and slid that little stick in his pocket, and that was the first prototype of the iPod. Well, I didn't know I needed 1,000 songs in my pocket, but he was able to see trends. He was able to see things ahead of everyone else. So leaders are readers of trends. And then leaders are readers of their resources. Leaders who desire to succeed maximize every asset and resource that they have for the benefit of those that they work with and work for. And so they have a good grasp of their resources and what's available to them, and they make good use of it. And then leaders are readers of people. In the memoirs and the writings about President Lyndon Johnson, he stated one time, he said, if you cannot walk into a room and determine who's for you and who's against you, you don't need to be in politics. Well, that's a pretty good appraisal about a lot of things in life. But this is perhaps the most important aspect of leadership. I mean, being able to read people, because you need to be able to read people, because leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And if you can't persuade people to follow, then you're really not leading. I mean, if people are not following you, you're not leading anything. You just have so many grand ideas within yourself. And then leaders are readers of themselves. No one can produce great things who is not thoroughly sincere in dealing with themselves. Well, you've got to have a grasp upon your own self and who you are at the core of your being. So very important to know thyself. So how do we apply this law of intuition? Well, practically speaking, read books on relationship building skills. Well, there's some great ones that are out there, and a wealth of information. Your public library is an outstanding place to go and see the wide array of possibilities on relationship building skills. Perhaps you just need to engage people in more conversation. You know, it's interesting. The more time that you spend with people, and the more you can talk and engage, the more that you begin to pick up intuitive insights as you develop that skill of conversation. Become a people watcher. Well, now that was something that early on in my life when I had the opportunity to live near Chicago and would go downtown on Michigan Ave right before the lunch hour. And on the lunch hour, those office buildings and towers, the doors open and the sea of humanity just come pouring out for lunchtime. and just a maze of people everywhere. And it was always pretty fascinating just to sit and watch people and listening to them and engaging them. And boy, it's amazing how you can pick up intuitive insights. And then train yourself to think about how to mobilize people based on their skill set. So those that are working alongside you, or those that you are responsible for in your leadership, sit and just give some thought. Just imagine, just play scenarios out in your mind on how to move and shift personnel, all based upon their skill set that they bring to the table. Those are just some practical things, 4 practical things. But also, I would suggest to keep these thoughts. I've got 4 more thoughts here to keep them close for constant review. First of all, who is the best person for the task at hand? When you look at your leadership flowchart and see the direction that you want to move your enterprise, who's the best person in key positions and key appointments that need to be made? Who is that best person, and why would you pick them? Also, what about the resources? What resources do you possess that can really help? So what's in your hand right now? A lot of times we are so busy looking for something outside of ourselves that we really fail sometimes to take a close look as to what's right within. You may have some outstanding leadership possibilities right within your arm's reach without having to always go outside and to pay for and to develop other personnel beyond you. You may have it right next to you. And then, what is this going to cost us financially? Now, in this economy, that is something that always has to be at the forefront of our thinking. Boy, before we engage in multi-million-dollar construction projects, expansion projects, moving to different markets, expanding into a global mindset of thinking in terms of our enterprise, what is the bottom line? And can I just state an age-old truth? The bottom line is the bottom line. And you just have to constantly pay attention to that. And you've just got to be mindful of the resources that you have, the things that are going to cost you. What's it going to cost you? What are the trends? Just a lot of things. You really have got to pay attention to that one very, very closely. And may I suggest, yes, you need to reach beyond yourself to trusted people, great advisors in your life. And then finally, how can I encourage others around me to achieve success? Well, that's the law of intuition. The next law we want to look at is the law of magnetism. And this law simply states who you are is what you attract. Who you attract is not determined by what you want on your team, but rather it is determined by who you are as a team leader. While we may feel that diversity is what we all seek for our team, you might be surprised to learn that your team is more like you than you realize. I mean, consider this criteria. Generation, for example. Most organizations reflect their key leaders, and that includes their age. You will have to be intentional in bringing others onto the team that are in different ages and stages of life. That is simply not going to come natural for you. And then consider, second of all, attitude. Rarely, if ever, will you see a positive and a negative a person attracted to each other. People who see life as a series of positive challenges do not want to be around people who are constantly negative. Attitudes are contagious. We seek positive people in our life to keep us up and not drag us down. I know that's true for us all. I don't ever get up on any given day and say to myself, I can't hardly wait to hang around a bunch of killjoys, negative people. Man, I just take great delight and joy in hanging around them. It's awesome. No, it's not. We want to hang around people that are positive, and that negative atmosphere, that black cloud that follows some people, boy, that's a drain on the positive energy of any team. Now, I do understand that life happens and circumstance happens, and we have to deal with negative things from time to time. However, in dealing with it, it doesn't mean that we need to always have to keep dealing with it. I mean, after a while, we as individuals have got to embrace the positive aspects in front of us. Life is not just totally one big negative storm cloud. Thirdly, consider the background. People attract and are attracted to others in similar backgrounds. So blue-collar workers tend to stick together, even in terms of race and ethnicity. I mean, education is certainly an attractor, or it can be a divider. This is what makes diversity so difficult. The commonality that is deeply seated within us is something that we really have to battle against if diversity is what we're seeking. So in spite of our best efforts at times to engage diversity and to have an organization that reflects diversity, we still are who we are in terms of our background, our culture, our race, our skin tone, geographical locations. And that's what makes diversity so profoundly difficult, because we constantly keep retreating back to who we are and to those that are most like me. And then number 4, values. We need to consider this. People are attracted to other people whose values are similar. It does not matter whether these shared values are positive or negative. Consider the illustrations of the idealistic JFK and those whom he attracted in his cabinet. When you go back and research that and look at that, there were a lot of people that was like him. Or how about this? Consider the values of Adolf Hitler, who attracted Hermann Göring, the founder of the Gestapo. You see, we do attract those of similar values around us. This makes diversity very, very difficult because we presume at times that we want diversity with people that have the same values that we have. And so if we could kind of get all that together, sure, we can have all kinds of diversity, but there's more to this discussion. Consider this, energy. I mean, high energy people and low energy people can just absolutely drive each other crazy. On the one hand, one believes the other's lazy, and the other believes that the one is insane. And so, energy. We type A people tend to hang around type A. And those of a different persuasion tend to be drawn to one another. But energy, so think about that as you engage this law of magnetism. And then giftedness. We're not in the business for looking at mediocrity in people to join our team. We don't want people that are just so-so. No, we want the best, the brightest that we possibly can achieve. We look for gifted people. Like attracts like. And so we're not looking for people that we necessarily have got to start from the ground up and just absolutely pour thousands of dollars into to develop a person that we hope that they will stay. And then finally, we look at leadership ability. We tend to bring people alongside of us who are similar in their leadership styles. We do not usually go very far outside of our capabilities of performance and belief. We tend to stay very, very close at hand. Former coach Al McGuire of Marquette stated that his teams should be an extension of his personality. And then he went on to qualify his personality. He said, "I'm arrogant and I'm obnoxious." Well, having been a connoisseur of college basketball back in the day, I remember those teams very well. And Marquette was always one of those nemesis teams when it come to teams like Indiana and Purdue. I don't know what there was about Marquette and these teams, but I tell you, it was always a dogfight. And yeah, I agree with Coach McGuire. Yeah, his teams were arrogant and obnoxious. So herein lies an axiom. The better leader you are, the better leaders that you will attract. Well, how do we apply this law of magnetism? First of all, based upon who you are attracting, you may need to grow in the areas of character and leadership. I mean, connect with a good coach. Again, I just cannot overemphasize this enough, the importance of being in a relationship with a good leadership coach. This will help you in your areas of weakness, and it will help strengthen your areas of competency. Perhaps, maybe instead of just a high formal connection with a coach, maybe you just simply need to sit down with your pastor. Pastors can certainly be great resources, and they can certainly be great listeners, and they can offer sometimes the most amazing pieces of wisdom without being so profound. Call your pastor and set up a time and just sit down and talk with them and listen to what they have to say. If you're attracting the kinds of people you desire, and you're doing that, okay? So you're doing everything that we've said, then it might be time for you to take your leadership skills and capabilities to the next level. So in that regard, continue to hire to your weakness and continue to work towards your strengths. Well, our time has come and gone once again, and we have already covered a couple of more of these laws, and we continue this journey of the 21 laws of leadership. And we're building this foundation for a great podcast series of great topics, great insights in the days, weeks, months ahead. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. God bless. We bid you Godspeed, and continue to value your image and value your capability as you develop yourself to influence other people. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.